So tired.
Come on, dude. Get with it. This is why. Where's your iced coffee? Sean doesn't make you have energy.
Sean doesn't pressure me, and then it comes naturally. He sympathizes.
He
loves me for who I am.
That might be true.
Wake up, everybody. Today is Thursday, September 17th, and we are Never Free to Play, a podcast where we talk about all the video games we wish we were playing. I'm one of your hosts, Karch Palashchi, joined by my co-host, Jason San Diego. If you decide you like us or you're related to us and we forced you to listen to this, you can find us at neverfreetoplay.com, patreon.com/neverfreetoplay, or on all the other social media where we are Never Free to Play. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, feedback, please send it to us at neverfreetoplay@gmail.com. Jason, welcome back. How are you doing?
As good as I can be, my friend. As good as I can be. So,
how was Tamriel?
Oh gosh, I just got lost in there. That's the benefit of having the Oculus Rift S. It's not battery powered. I could stay in there as long as I wanted to, so I did.
And you were sleeping and eating in there too. Well, that's great.
But yeah.
I'm glad you're back on Earth, though. We missed you.
Oh,
Sean is
me too.
A capable replacement, but certainly can hold no candle to the original.
Who can?
Me.
I'm glad to be back. Oh, the original you. Okay.
Yes.
Well, he was a better replacement co-host than Greg. I'll say that.
Absolutely.
And I can say that with confidence, knowing that Greg won't listen to this episode.
Not even a little bit? Except for the part where he'll listen to see if it was bad or not.
No, he'll listen to the clap sync and then he'll skim through. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Nothing else? You got that's it? No big adventures stories you want to give us?
Not really, man. I finished Married at First Sight Season 3. I mean, that's something we could definitely talk about.
Listen, we're done because she was watching that. Rachel was watching that the other day when I went in. I think after the last episode we recorded, I was like, what is this new garbage you're watching?
I love it. I love it, dude. I love it. And I would just say that was an interesting one. And I also just want to say that Lauren and I looked it up, and I think they've done a lot of seasons of that show. Maybe I want to say maybe 12 seasons of that show.
Yeah. And
of those 12 seasons, I think they've only had, so they do 3 to 4 couples a season, 12 seasons. So you're talking upwards of 40 to 50 couples that they've matched. And of those, I think only 10 to 15 of them decided to stay together by the end of the show. And of that, I think only 3 are still together today.
Who would have thought such a ridiculous concept would produce such poor marriages?
Well, here's the thing, though. If you think about it, because I watched this other show called Indian Matchmaking, and I think a lot of those couples do stay together. It's interesting. But that one had a totally different vibe because it wasn't a game show. It was we're legitimately looking for your soulmate, and I think it is kind of just more part of their culture. So it was, I don't know, it was very interesting.
I regret asking you for more information. Well, let's go ahead and move into housekeeping. Like, sub, follow, share, subscribe. Which is
right now. Right now. Stop the video. Press the link at the top of the description. It will take you to the subscribe page of the YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast service, which is highly unlikely, just click the subscribe button on the, page there.
Shout out to Sean Mybers once again for filling in. I'm sure he'll appreciate the week off, though, as he gets to step back into the role of fan and listener. But once again, thank you, Sean, for filling in while Jason was away. There are no corrections. We might as well throw the correction music in the trash because we are so good at this.
We're done with it.
We're done with it. And we're going to get into the news right now because there's a lot to go over. PS5 price and release date has been revealed. $400 for the digital version and $500 for the disc version. There is no difference between the two, except for the digital version has no disc tray drive thingamajig. That's it. And then, of course, $100. Unlike the Xbox S and Series S and X, which have significant specification differences while still maintaining that quote-unquote next-gen capability. So, Jason, how did you feel when you saw those prices?
I was very excited because I don't care what anybody says. Most of the people that like most influencers said like $500 minimum, and they wouldn't be surprised if it was more money. I've heard a lot of people kind of backtrack on that and be like, "Oh yeah, totally, this makes sense." This is what I've been saying all along. It's simply not true. Everybody said there was no way we were going to get a PS5 for the same price as the PS4. Period. Not a single person. Everybody said that the all digital would be like 500, and that the full version, with the disc drive would be even more money. I think people should own up to that and eat crow when they deserve it, but that's neither here nor there. I'm very excited to see this price, and as somebody who has transitioned into fully digital over this past generation, I'm excited to see that price, and I intend on trading my PS4 Pro in and getting the PS5.
You don't have any games you would want to play physically? Like you don't have any purchase? Okay.
I have a handful of games. Actually, now that you mentioned that, I have God of War physical.
That's me too. Me too. And so I'm like, ugh, because I want to trade it in, but I don't want to buy the disc for it. It's this whole thing.
Listen, dude. Listen, God of War wasn't that one of the games that they said were going to be available?
Yeah, that's true.
So there's no need, man. All those great exclusives are going to be part of PlayStation Plus, and you don't need to hold on to that, man. We've moved on. We've transcended physical media. We are in next generation. You just have to accept it.
But my Kingdom Hearts compilation is on disc.
No, it would be really cool if they had some sort of upgrade or transition program where you could somehow transition that disc into a digital license before you go to PS5, but it's not going to happen. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, of course it's not going to happen. Like no such thing has ever been broached by a company. It's one of those things that fans and pundits and whatnot always talk about, but it's nothing that's ever actually been, to my knowledge anyway, attempted by a major player, let's say.
I mean, the closest that you'd ever get, and this is so far not what we're talking about, but you used to be able to go to the store and buy physical copies of games, and then you'd open them up and there would be like a digital code in there. Yeah. I did that for Team Fortress. I bought it from Best Buy. It was like in a little disc holder, but then you opened it up and there was no disc. It's just the Steam code. Obviously, that's just not how things work anymore.
Not anymore. So there's the price. It's finally over. Everybody knows what everything's going to cost. And then it releases on November 12th for the quote-unquote important countries. And then November 19th for the rest of the world. I think it went on pre-order for some people today. Or not for some people, at certain retailers today. And I'm sure they got scooped up real quick because, as we heard prior to this, there were rumors, and some substantiated, some not substantiated, some denied, etc., about the production line and the number of units that Sony was going to be able to actually acquire for their launch. There were rumors, leaks, etc., from Bloomberg that Sony was going to reduce their orders for upcoming PS5 consoles by as much as 4 million. Later that day, though, Sony did bat that down. They're, companies like them are usually very slow to comment concretely on anything. But in this case, they were like, no, absolutely not. That's not true. So, not sure what happened there, but I do tend to believe them when they do come out and say something like this, when, again, their stance is usually to just ignore and no comment the situation away.
Sure. But what I will say is that reportedly, to this point, the pre-orders have been a little bit of an issue. Mm-hmm. And people are a little upset with Sony right now because in July, there was a Sony rep that said that they would definitely give people fair warning when the pre-orders would go live. And you saw that with Xbox because they did say, like, hey, pre-orders will go live, mid-September. I can't remember the exact date, but they told people 2 or 3 weeks in advance, like, here's when the next-gen Xboxes are going to go for pre-order. Sony, they said in July they would give people a warning. And then a couple weeks ago, they put up a website where you could sign up for pre-order. And what they did some sort of weird thing where they would like monitor your PSN usage and determine who they wanted to allow to pre-order through them directly. Mm-hmm. And then immediately, and they said at that point when they set that website up that pre-orders would start on September 18th, which is tomorrow. We're recording this on the 17th, so tomorrow. But then immediately following that event on Wednesday, which was the 16th, I guess just yesterday.
Yep.
A lot of retailers went ahead and put their pre-orders up. And I saw some claims that for instance, there was like Australian GameStop, I think was the one who said they had 75,000 allotted for 2020 and they sold through them in an hour.
I mean, that's not surprising. That's not that's not a lot of consoles in the first place.
No, it's not.
Yeah. And they sold through the entire PS4 stock when it launched, right?
I actually didn't look that up, but
I'm pretty sure they did, or at least it's an obscene percentage of it.
So, but I guess the thing is that people are just a little bit upset that they thought that this would be handled a little bit better from the standpoint of knowing when those were going to go live. And
right.
On the one hand, they kind of did it by setting up that website and saying they're going to be on, September 18th. But then on the other hand, they didn't really manage the third party or, retailers very well.
No, but, they're bungling stuff left and right, and it happens. And you'll get your copy eventually. And I mean, normally I'd say, oh, what's the big deal? But as we're about to get into, launch window is looking hot. So
you think?
I think so. Being generous with the phrase launch window, let's say launch year. We'll say from November to November. Yes, let's talk about it. So Sony said all this at the end of their State of Play yesterday. They said the price and release date at the end of a State of Play, which actually was preceded by a bunch of game showcase stuff. Some stuff we had not seen at all, and then a lot of stuff we had heard of, either teased or briefly shown in more in depth. And it was a pretty good showing, at least in my opinion. I feel like they opened and closed strong. So let's go ahead and get into maybe not all the games, but definitely a bunch of them. Right out the gate, though, Final Fantasy 16.
That was cool.
It was really cool. And you're not sure until the music starts playing, because you think, and then you hear the, if you're familiar at all anyway, there's the classic Final Fantasy theme, and lock and loaded, swords and sorcery are back. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm excited. I mean, even you are like, sounding positive about something that you would normally have absolutely no interest in.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it didn't show any gameplay. It was definitely
that's
cinematic.
No, there was lots of gameplay. I mean, compared to, there was lots of gameplay for something that you had never seen before. Like, it shows, and it's a very different version. It's like they're continuing their foray into real time action combat. It looked a lot.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, it looked a lot more Devil May Cry esque. Actually,
it looked a lot like
they actually hired.
Right.
What were you saying?
Well, sorry. All I was going to say is it did look like kind of in that vein of Final Fantasy 15 or the Final Fantasy 7 remake in terms of what the combat would look like. Now, I guess it's just my ignorance not being a Final Fantasy fan that I didn't recognize what I was shown as a gameplay, because I did watch the trailer. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it looked cool. And notably, what I thought was odd is that everybody in the trailer had British accents.
Yeah, it's a thing they do in a lot of Japanese games, especially when you have like royalty and or like an imperial side. You want to, it's what they do when they want bad guys or, important people to be distinguished from another side.
I guess Americans kind of do that too with the British bad guys.
Right. And so a key piece of information about this is it's being produced by, I'm going to butcher his name, Naoki Yoshida, who is the director for Final Fantasy XIV. And if you know anything about, if you ever watched, played, etc., anything about Final Fantasy XIV, you can see a lot of that in this. Both the way that the cinematics were constructed and put together, the character designs are very Final Fantasy XIV. So while everything is very medieval and fantasy-esque, there's still this kind of almost juxtaposed modern look to a lot of the characters, especially in their faces and their hairstyles. And they do a lot of English voice acting, like English accented voice actors in Final Fantasy XIV. Like, it's a big thing. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Speaking of the voice acting, I think it's promising that there was a fully voiced, trailer the first time they're showing it, as far as it being a reasonable like release date time frame. Like, it could be as early as next year, but probably 2022.
It'd be interesting that we'll probably get this before we get Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2.
It's possible, or even more interesting, like they might have to compete with each other, which is going to be very strange. That there would be two Final Fantasy products that people would be like incredibly ready to purchase and want to play. It's a PS5 exclusive, at least on the console, assuming they don't do a PC thing. I'm pretty sure it said just PS5 exclusive.
I think it said console exclusive on this one.
Should have wrote that down.
Yeah.
But my biggest takeaway is, so after Final Fantasy 15, which was a giant disappointment, I didn't think I would care even a little bit about the next one. But I was proven wrong. Like, I was incredibly excited that even if this game's not great, it looks like they have an idea for a change. They have an idea of what they want to make, which is not something that could be said about 13 or 15. Both of those started out as one thing and ended up just being something totally different. And that could happen here. I might have to eat crow, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Again, it might not be amazing, but I think this is going to be a pretty decent game.
Which one was the games as a service, like kind of, or not games as a service, but like the MMO?
The actual MMO is both 11 and 14.
Okay, so 14 is the same producer. What kind of vibes are you getting in terms of So something people say constantly and have for years, and I believe them to an extent because I've played MMOs and I've played Final Fantasies, but they say that the story is some of the best Final Fantasy story that they've had in years, even though it is in the MMO. Now, that can't actually be true, because an MMO, by its sheer definition, never has a good story. Like at least for me, sometimes it's fun and it's this nice little like garnish on the side of this thing that you're already totally hooked to. But that is not why you come back to it. Some people do, but for me, the way the MMOs are structured, like the story is never going to be engaging to me, because it's going to be riddled with all this filler stuff in between those story moments that completely kills any sense of pacing or immersion. Whereas, so that's my question. Do you think this is going to be a more traditional story presentation, or do you think it's going to be a more MMO?
Well, I mean, it's not going to be an MMO.
Okay.
So it would be it's a single player game, so it'll present its story like a single player game.
I mean, that interests me more personally, so that's cool.
Weird thing is that everything they showed, both in the in the cinematics and the brief snippets of gameplay, implied that there's like pretty much just this one main playable character, which would be incredibly new and bold, since parties and JRPGs are pretty much, that's just what you do. You have a bunch of characters you control, and you get to choose a bunch and mix and match and all that stuff. But we'll see.
Yeah, totally.
We'll see. All right. Next we had, let's see, I think it was Spider-Man, right?
Yep, totally.
Spider-Man Miles Morales, which looks great.
Yeah. Looks like more Spider-Man.
Looks like more Spider-Man, exactly. I'm feeling lukewarm on it because I didn't leave Spider-Man PS4 thinking like, man, I need more of this game. I felt like, wow, that was perfect. That was enough. I do not need any more of this, though, because it started to wear its welcome out, especially combat and gameplay wise. The story is fine, but the rest of it was a little eh.
I felt the same way. I mean, that was one, unfortunately, that I didn't complete. I probably stopped about halfway through. And like you said, that I think I got to a point where like I had pretty much unlocked all the combat mechanics, or at least I thought I had, and the story wasn't engaging me, and I had other things I wanted to get to, and I just, it was kind of a time and a place sort of thing, and I didn't finish it. And then I've seen this, and I'm like, oh, cool. That looks really cool. glad it exists for people who wanted more of that, but I don't think it's something that I, even if I had a PS5 day one, I don't think this is going to be on my list of like things I have to own.
Agreed. It is only going to be $50, so that's nice. And we'll talk about why that's kind of bittersweet in a little bit. But yeah, it will be a PS4 game and a PS5 game. Another thing that we'll talk about in just a little bit. So there was a little confusion when it was originally shown at their first major next-gen showcase. And a lot of people just kind of thought, because they didn't say otherwise, that it was going to be a PS5 exclusive, but it will be available on PS4, which is, in my opinion, nice, because if I do want to play it, I'll be able to.
Right, and it is nice. I think, obviously, that was very intentional on their part.
Oh, yeah.
But now they're playing kind of both sides, so that's fine.
A little flip-floppy. No big deal.
Right.
Next up, we had a long-anticipated Hogwarts Legacy. So they finally made a open-worldy kind of RPG, third-person action Harry Potter game. Except it's not going to have anything to do with Harry Potter. It's set in like the early 19th century or mid-19th
century. So the 1800s, yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's what I meant to say. So that dummies like myself wouldn't get confused.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I couldn't care less about this game, honestly. Like, I love Harry Potter. I'll always love those books, and the movies are pretty decent too. But the game, like, I haven't been foaming at the mouth for a game. And honestly, to me personally, this game looks awful. Like, this to me, like, for Karch, this couldn't look like a less interesting game. Like a bland, create a character. They're going to be this cookie cutter, bland, just paste whatever you want on top of them. The story will be generic as all get out. And I just don't want anything to do with it.
It'll be interesting to see if we learn more about it as it gets closer. This trailer, like, it was odd to me because there was so much narration over it. And I don't typically associate that with Western trailers, but I know this is WB, so I know it's a Western studio that made this game. But like, man, this trailer was super bland. And considering how hyped everyone was when we got the leaks of this like 2 years ago. It was like a little iPhone video of combat or whatever. It looked really cool. And then to see this as the final product, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan in the first place. I'll wait and see is kind of where I'm at. If people are saying this is a great RPG, blah, 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 then cool. Maybe I pick it up. But otherwise, I think I'm fine passing on it for now.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it smacks and looks like a games as a service type game. You can even see what is clearly like an incredibly customized character. Like they have a mask on and everything, but supposedly it's a single player game. So not that the two haven't been, joined together before, a la Avengers, which is toted around as both. So it could be Hogwarts Avengers for all we know. But like you said, more data will be coming in the future.
Sure. And I'm not super up to date on Harry Potter lore either. I don't know what in the Harry Potter universe is happening in the 1800s. Maybe I'm sure a Harry Potter superfan could tell you, but it seems like they were kind of trying to get away from anything.
Smart.
Yeah. Smart, but at the same time, don't know if it's going to please the fan base.
I think it will. I think they have big shoes to fill. Like not nobody. There's a couple of the movie games that they've made that people have enjoyed, but like that was usually in spite of them usually being terrible. So it's like no one's made a good Harry Potter game. No one knows what that looks like, and it's like I start to think, I'm like, okay, what would I do? Knowing how magic works in that, yes, they can do like combat, like magic you can have like magic battles. But like for the most part, that's not what those books were about. Like it was about the mysteries and the characters and so now you're going to try to video gameize it. And I'm just curious to see what their take is going to be because I can't think about.
Wasn't that Chamber of Secrets game pretty okay for the time? I mean, that was like a PS2 GameCube era game.
It might have been that one. Like I said, they made one for every movie on multiple consoles. I remember I played one on Game Boy Advance that I didn't hate, but again, that was more just like a puzzle adventure game almost.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So that comes in 2021. And yes, Spider-Man will be out in 2020. This holiday season, which is pretty much a launch title. Yeah, which is pretty much a launch title. Then we had Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. They showed some campaign, and aside from it looking beautiful, it looks like every other, high octane shooter cutscene thing that you've played before. Do you have any additional thoughts that you want to?
No, I know that the campaign had been notably missing from some of the previous installments recently, and that this one has one. So that part is kind of cool. And I know that they've kind of changed their monetization model up a little bit, making Call of Duty Warzone, their Battle Royale, free. So it'll be interesting to see what this one does. If the campaign's good and it's like maybe say at least like 10 hours, I would be interested. I think that'd be a sweet spot for me. I don't want like a 60-hour Call of Duty campaign.
That'd be crazy.
But like 5 to 10 hours is going to be a sweet spot. So, and it also would be really cool if they gave you those modes standalone. Like here, you can buy just the campaign for $20, or you can get access to the multiplayer for X dollars or whatever it is. I think that would be interesting because I don't have any desire to go get my butt kicked by a bunch of kids who have way too much time to put into this, but wouldn't mind checking out a decent campaign. So,
yep. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't a Black Ops game just come out? Wasn't that 4? Didn't Black Ops 4 come out like 2 years ago or last year?
It had to have been last fall if it did.
Because I always thought they did it like on a rotation. I might be misremembering it.
They've kind of messed with their rotation a little bit because I think this is the game that struggled a little bit, and so they kind of reshuffled their rotation. And they had 2 different studios working on this, one more focused on the campaign and one more focused on the multiplayer.
Gotcha.
I think, so Treyarch and Raven were the 2 in this, and I want to say Raven was the one more focused on the single player. I could be wrong about that, but somebody will correct me, I'm sure.
That'll be coming to PS4 and PS5. Obviously, it'll be available on everything the same around, like roughly the same time that Call of Duty always drops. So no big news.
And there's an alpha. There's a PS4 alpha starting September 18th,
which is tomorrow.
Tomorrow, but this won't go live till Monday, so you may have already missed it. I don't know.
Oopsie. Next up, we have 8-Age, or as Capcom likes to call it, Resident Evil Village, which is technically Resident Evil 8, but they're getting really weird and cute with this naming scheme, which is fun to look at, but it's not fun to say. But yeah, they showed more. Last time it was a trailer. This time was a. I struggle to say gameplay because it was clearly like in-engine stuff. It was like they would do pans of in-game cameras of like the environments, and you would see like really quick moments of like a zombie coming out at you and stuff. But for the most part, there still wasn't a lot to go off of. So they're just kind of reminding you that Resident Evil Village is a thing and it's still coming.
It was cool. It was creepy.
Cool. Yeah.
I wish I had the constitution and like, I'll just say it, balls to play this game, but I am such a little scaredy cat. I want to play this because it looked so cool, and it wasn't just zombies. It was like monsters, and it had like this foresty folklore
like old
vibe
Europe
to it. Yeah. Something
which is like
just...
Go ahead.
Almost more Silent Hills than it was Resident Evil in terms of that, because...
Maybe.
Well, I just know Silent Hills strikes me as more Western, and Resident
I don't know.
Evil.
I've never played them. I barely know anything about them except the movies, which are so-so.
Right. But anyway, this one just, it looked cool. I mean, I wish I could play it, but I know I can't.
We're going to play it. I played 2 and 4, or I played 4 and then the 2 remake, and I got through both of them. We can do this together at the very least.
Okay. I'm down.
Yeah. So, no release information on that. Probably a 2022. We'll see. Maybe 2021. Man, 2021 needs to get some delays because it's getting jam-packed at this point.
Maybe we'll get another pandemic. Who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky.
Dude, this one hasn't gone anywhere. I don't think I need a second one. I'm so sick of this. Ugh. All right. Next up, we had Deathloop again. A new gameplay trailer. As we know, it was delayed until Q2 of 2021. I was in the moment we were texting back and forth. I was like, "Oh, what if they undelay it? No one's ever done that before." Unfortunately, that was not the case. So we will still have to wait a little while.
It's fine. You said you literally just said you wanted delays. So there you go.
Yeah, but this one's going to be in 2021. They would have to delay it to 2022, which I don't.
Can't be choosers, man.
Monkey's paw. Did you feel like this was a very different kind of trailer? Like, I feel like I knew what the game was about, and the last time they showed it, and then I saw this trailer. I'm like, oh, it's still similar, but I feel like it's a little different. Like, I thought it was going to be like really focused as far as like who the protagonist was and who the antagonist. I mean, obviously we know who the protagonist is. It's that guy that you are. But it seemed like he was just going to go like he was always going to square off against that other person. I think it was some woman.
That's what I thought. But it seems like there's like 8 different other people he has to. It seems like these 8 people are in pursuit of some sort of immortality, and you have to stop them. And there's a loop, and it makes me wonder if it's going to be like 8 different kind of levels, or like how do you build to those 8 mini bosses or whatever. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I'm interested, and I loved Dishonored 1 and 2, some of my favorite games, and this is the same studio, Arcane, Bethesda Publishing. I'll probably pick this up on PC if I don't have a PS5 by then. Hopefully I will have a PS5 by then. I'm hoping for a decent trade-in deal with the PS4 Pro, so we'll see.
Yep. And then we had Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, so some sort of like, Ultimate Edition where they're going to package in a bunch of new content with the original game. Made me, I kind of want to play it, but I'm probably never going to play it kind of situation. Really nothing more to say on it. But
I played, was it Devil May Cry 4 that was it a late PS3 game?
I have no idea.
Well, anyway, I played a Devil May Cry 4 I played a Devil May Cry game that I feel like was late PS3. And it was cool, but I think I learned during the course of playing like that I just don't really care for that super stylish combat. And that's just a personal preference. But it looked really cool. Like, don't get me wrong, it looked really cool. That's just not my jam. So there you go for the people who liked it. I kind of feel like, for whatever reason, the people who liked this game really liked it, but in some ways it felt underrated just because there wasn't a ton of hype around it at the time.
I want to say it had a lot of competition. I can't remember if that's the case, and if it is, what it was even around it at the time, but I want to say, not that it came out at a bad time, because it still certainly did well critically and commercially, but I think it had a few big hitters surrounding it that it was just like, okay, if you were hoping to get some non-fans, too bad, because they're going to go play these other games.
Right, yeah.
So, all right. Next we had Oddworld Soulstorm. I'm going to skip right over that. I'm going to skip over Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. And then we're going to get right into Demon's Souls. Extended gameplay reveal. Not a big Souls fan. Still going to play Sekiro at some point, but this looked cool. They always do, though. They all look cool to me until I get my hands on them, and I'm like, oh, man.
And you're like, man, I stink at this. Like, I'm just so bad. That's why, like, they did a great job with this trailer, and you and I talked about this, too.
Yeah.
Because the first, 2 minutes of it, this dude was just going through and like, oh, yeah, shield, sword, boom, death animation, stabby animation, like, killing everything. And then until it kind of climaxed to the classic signature, like, you died screen. And then after that, it showed all, like, the boss battles of you just getting clobbered over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, man, yeah, that just reminded me that I'm probably just going to stink at it. But the cool thing is it didn't look as rigid as some of these other Souls games. And I know we kind of got a taste of that with Sekiro, like you just mentioned, of it not being so rigid and so, I've heard like Chris Ray say, stapled to the ground, no verticality. Like it felt like a more modern take on this while still keeping the classic, what people liked about it, intact. Like, it looked really pretty.
Looks so good. It looks probably, if I had to say, the best looking, personally, the way that my most well received with my eyes game that I've seen on a PS5 so far.
I would give that honor to Ratchet and Clank, but I respect your.
It's a good. It's a toss up. It's like one, and they're almost so completely different in style. It's hard to compare them, but that's a good pick too. Key point is that this is obviously a remake of the original, not being done by From Software because they don't own the rights to publish and work on this game if Sony doesn't let them. From Software's doing their own thing right now with whatever their new game's called, Elden Ring, I think. They haven't actually shown anything yet. But Bluepoint is doing this, and I wonder if they will, if there will be some more accessibility that you haven't found. And I know last time when Sekiro came out, there was a lot of talk around accessibility in difficult games, and like, is it okay? Creators' intent, blah blah blah. Well, the original creators has nothing to do with this anymore, and so now is an opportunity for Bluepoint and or Sony to go like, all right, but we're gonna do this, so we're gonna make an easy mode. Like, will this be the first like Souls game with an easy mode, which could be interesting.
It could be. I don't. It's weird because like I don't need the accessibility. Like I have no qualification for need. Like I don't have any sort of impairment at all, other than I just am bad at video games. So I don't think I deserve it.
Dude, that's listed in the ICD-10 diagnosis chart. Bad at video games.
Bad at video. Okay, well, then maybe I do. Maybe I do.
Your insurance will cover it. I promise.
Great. But for other people, okay, cool if they want it. I feel like if I'm going to beat a game, I want to do it the right way. But I have loosened up on that a little bit. I did drop the difficulty in The Last of Us Part 2. So I could be convinced, I suppose.
That's a good topic of the show. Playing games the right way when it comes to difficulty and, not to get too far into it because we can't speak to it, but, disabilities, ableism, etc., all that kind of stuff.
Write that down.
Write it down. Write it. All right. Written down.
Actually, I heard typing.
It's fake. It's not a real keyboard. It's not connected to anything.
How come you have to always give away our props?
Unreal Engine 4 Fortnite gameplay revealed. Nobody cares. And then something we very much do care about that I feel like I don't think anybody's been talking about because there's been a lot of other stuff to talk about, to be fair. Like there's so much to talk about right now. But PlayStation Plus Collection was announced for PS5. Not a lot of data or stuff to go off of, but basically it's going to be PlayStation Plus will offer basically all PS4 Sony exclusive games available for PS5.
Not every single one of them, but a lot of them. Some of the later generation ones won't be on here. So, like, The Last of Us Part 2 is not on here. Ghost of Tsushima is not on here.
Yet. It's a very strong possibility that those will show up in a year's time or so.
Sure. And that's what wasn't clear about this was... Is this a rotating library?
It better not be.
I really hope it's not because that would make me so mad. But, they did the same thing with PlayStation Now where they were like, oh, we'll let some of these PS4 exclusive big titles be on here, but only for 3 months.
Right.
Or no,
what do you think
whatever it was.
What do you think it says that this is part of PlayStation Plus and not PS Now?
Yeah, no, I wish we would have had more information about the services side of this generation because it's going to be such a key component of it. I do feel like we are getting to the point where the hardware itself, it doesn't matter as much as the software and the features and the services. And we didn't hear a lot about that side of it from this presentation. What do I think it says that these are on PlayStation Plus and not PlayStation Now? I think it says they're not merging those services like we wish they were. Because obviously Xbox has done that with Game Pass and with Xbox Gold. I don't think Sony's going to follow suit. If they were going to, they would have said it here and they didn't.
And can I play these on PS4? Like, it's not clear at all if this is a PS5 only thing. Like, because it specifically says at PS5's launch, but will I, as a PS4 owner, be able to purchase? Because I would, because I can. Here's the list. It's a great list: God of War, Bloodborne, Monster Hunter World, which is a game I own physically that I would very much want digitally, Final Fantasy 15, Fallout 4, Mortal Kombat 10, Uncharted 4, Ratchet & Clank, Days Gone, Until Dawn, Detroit Become Human, Battlefield 1, Infamous Second Son, Batman Arkham Knight, The Last Guardian, The Last of Us, Persona 5, and Resident Evil 7, Biohazard. That's a huge list of heavy hitters, half of which are not exclusive to the PS4.
Yeah, but it does say this. It says PlayStation Plus Collection is a PS5 upgrade to Sony's PlayStation Plus service subscription. So I'm assuming that it's PS5 only.
That's so dumb.
Well, a lot of things about this are dumb. The other thing that's dumb is like they offer Uncharted 4, but not the Uncharted 1 through 3 collection. Like there's a lot of things about this that don't really make a whole lot of sense. And I commend them for doing it, but at the same time, I'm frustrated that it isn't what I wanted it to be. And I don't know if that's fair, but it's just how I feel.
I think it's mostly fair. Their next move will determine whether I'm legitimately angry or not. I am now confused. I feel like this should have been a bigger deal. They should have, and the reason that it isn't either means they bungled the marketing side of it, or it's actually a terrible deal and they're trying to hide it.
They totally, in my opinion, as cool as all of this looked, it's a cluster from a messaging standpoint.
Right.
Because on the one hand, I have to start from the very beginning. I know this is kind of jumping ahead here, but Sony went on this whole tirade about how they believe in generations and they believe in separation and they believe in console generation jumps. And at the other end of the spectrum, Microsoft was like, well, we're going to make everything cross-gen compatible. Well, Sony did not mention a single time backwards compatibility, but in addition to that, it seemed like after the fact, after the showcase, they kind of dropped, I don't know if it was on the PlayStation blog or what, that several of their launch window titles are going to be available for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. And so that includes, do you have the list here? Yeah, Miles Morales.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, Miles Morales, so Spider-Man Miles Morales, Sackboy, A Big Adventure, and Horizon Forbidden West, which is huge. Those are going to be available on PS4 and PS5. Meanwhile, you have like the whole internet giving Xbox and Microsoft crap about developing Halo specifically for, to be able to run on Xbox software, and how that's obviously the reason why it got delayed, and like commending Sony for what they've done. And then Sony turns around and does this. So you've got that little disconnect there. You've got this weird like refusal to combine services of PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus when they're clearly like so meant to be together. Basically what I'm saying is that I just don't feel like this is a cohesive strategy of rolling all this out. We don't know anything about the services. There are a lot of questions on what they meant by this and why did they not talk about that. And it's a frustrating place to be as a consumer, to not understand what Sony's vision is for this next generation.
100% agreed. I mean, their vision is, we're going to make the same kind of console, we're going to make the same kind of games, and you're going to buy it, and it's going to be awesome. And so I can step back far enough knowing that I want all those things. And like the whole, like, some people being really upset or being like, but hey, you all made fun of Xbox. Like, I couldn't care less, because I was never going to be an Xbox guy in the first place, and I didn't care. It just did, in this case, didn't affect me, and I'm on the list of things that Sony's done and will do in the next year that are going to make me angry. This is pretty low on that list. So,
yeah, I know, I'm with you. I'm just saying it just kind of goes to the whole bigger picture of, we don't really know what their vision is, and we don't know what we're getting with this, other than a slightly nicer PS4 that plays the same types of games you had for PS4. But that's
all I want.
But Xbox is offering you something different in terms of their vision, and I just wish we had more of an idea of what Sony wants this generation to be.
You've become addicted to the vision. They didn't used to care or show their vision. Now Xbox has got us asking for PS5's vision, like they were ever going to have one in the first place. Now they're scrambling to create this thing they didn't know they had to create.
Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's okay.
It is. It is okay. On either side, whether you're demanding it or you don't care. So that was the last thing before Herman What's-His-Face came on screen and said, yeah, PS5 is cool. And then they announced the price and the release date. And then they did their one more thing. and it was God of War Ragnarok teaser trailer thingy for 2021, and I was stoked.
I was stoked too, man.
I literally out loud, involuntarily went, yes, yes, and I did like an arm pump thing. Like I hadn't, like, and afterward I was like, why did I do that? Like I didn't realize I was doing it until like after it, and I was like,
that's how excited you are.
It was a weird moment of like hype, coming to reality for me.
Yeah, your one comment on that was like, oh man, I don't want to have to wait till next fall.
I don't want to have to wait till next fall.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, they said it's coming 2021. I believe them with my entire being, and if they delay it, they can't. They can't delay it because that would be illegal. They're not allowed to. I will sue them.
It's against the rules. Yeah, we should all. So
some people are like, it's too soon. I'm like, it shouldn't be. Games don't need to take this long. You should be able to play, especially a game you're going to have a sequel for that's going to be in relatively the same engine, or can be ported over to a new engine, like something like that. Like I just don't see why this game would require like either 7 years or obscene amounts of crunch. Like that is not a tenable way to make video games. If you can't keep adding more years every generation, or you're never going to get anything done. And so they have to figure something out. Hopefully, Sony Santa Monica did, and that they're on track without killing themselves. But give me that game because I need it.
Even if you have to kill yourself.
Even if I have to kill myself.
Do it.
Just like
Crunch.
in Hades.
Just kidding.
I don't even remember what he said. I haven't had a chance to go back and watch it because like Kratos. So what happens is the Omega symbol, which is the God of War logo, starts to like appear on screen. But it's all frosty and snowy and cold, and Kratos is just saying something. It's very brief. He's like, prepare yourself or something like that. But I was too excited to even pay attention to what he was saying because I knew it wasn't going to be important. I knew it was going to be like whatever.
I did the same thing. I was sitting there looking at the symbols be revealed in that circle, and I was like, yes.
So Jason, you have
I just
a
year
and some change.
And I want to, yeah. I've got time. I just want to go on record and say that I do think the God of War Special Edition PS4 is ugly.
It is. It's what is it? It's like a slate gray, and then it's got some of the runes on it.
Yeah, but they're really ugly. Like, oh, geez, it looks like it was written by a third grader left-handed in crayon. So, anyway.
I mean, the runes themselves look like that. That's just how the runes look, sort of. But I
Maybe they should make them better.
It's not pretty. Yeah. Maybe they should go back in time and change Norse mythology.
Yeah, well, maybe they should have had better handwriting.
I hope so. Like they could have done something cool with like
rocks.
Like the way that Kratos has a very distinct, war paint pattern or tattoos even, I think is what it is. And like they could have used that, but they didn't. They just made a gray console. Disappointing. So, overall, Jason, how'd you feel about the conference? The State of Play.
I have mixed feelings about it because I'm excited that we finally have the date and the price, and I am excited for a lot of the games. Maybe this is an unfair expectation, and I am kind of just reiterating what I just said. I just wish we knew more about the service side of it. I'm not asking them to show me like what does the screen look like when you open up the console, and how do the menus navigate, and are we going to have folders at launch and all this? Like, I'm not asking for that, but like, they didn't talk about backwards compatibility. They didn't talk about services like cool PlayStation Collection, great, but are you going to mesh that with PlayStation Now? And if I just want to know, there were rumors that PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live were both going to be free, and like the upgraded portion of it was going to be kind of like the Game Pass PS Now part of it. Obviously, that's not true. I just wanted more of that part of it to know what we were getting ourselves in for this generation, and I just feel like I didn't get it. What about you? I mean, on the whole, I'm positive. I don't want to mince words. On the whole, I'm positive. I just, always questions.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. It's nice to see the console isn't ridiculously priced. And then I didn't think too hard about the PlayStation Plus thing. Until just now, really, when we started talking about it and you're talking about Vision. And I too would like that. I want to know what they're going to be offering. At the same time, I haven't touched Game Pass in a meaningful way in like 3 months. I'm considering canceling it because they're about to up the price to like from $5 to $10 a month for the PC. And then, just jumping back on the next time I need to play something. It's going to be the same thing probably with PS Plus. So like, it's like, to me, it just doesn't matter because I'm just going to be buying my games piecemeal still on the whole. Like, unless they come out with something else, which I just don't think they're going to since they've already told us what they're going to do. We would be looking at something like mid-generation as far as, and now revealing PS Plus meets PS Now in some sort of mega subscription thing once they see how successful Game Pass is, which I think it will be for the masses, for the majority of people, now that they've got EA on board and whoever else they snag in the meantime. But overall, very positive, very excited for 2021 in general, because 2020 sucks, and new video games make everything
forward to. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep.
If that wasn't enough, that same day, so that Wednesday, Nintendo announced that they would be doing a partner showcase mini direct the next day. So that was today, and I got to watch that earlier. Jason unfortunately did not, but we will go over them because he will have things to say.
Guide me through it, Spirit.
We won't go over everything because some of it just wasn't worth talking about. But at the top was Monster Hunter Stories 2, which is like a side game to Monster Hunters, which was like, okay, that's cool. It's interesting. And then after that, they were like, there's also going to be a Monster Hunter Direct at the end of this. And I was like, what? And my interest was piqued.
So piqued right now.
So piqued because I love Monster Hunter. I played Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate on the 3DS. I put a lot of hours into that. Put a lot of hours into Monster Hunter World. Nowhere near that of people who are still playing Monster Hunter World and Iceborne over on, on console stuff. But, I held out hope that something would come to the Switch, and something has. And so I'll go ahead and just jump over to that Monster Hunter Direct. They went ahead and opened up with a brand new game exclusive to the Switch called Monster Hunter Rise. And it is basically a Switch answer to Monster Hunter World. And it looks so gosh darn good. It's like, I don't know how to say. Like, it's so hard to like sum this up quickly. March 26, 2021, so it's coming soon. Not super soon, but soon. Plenty of time to get delayed because that's the kind of date you put on something, because that's the end of the fiscal quarter, or fiscal year for that matter. So they're going to want to hit that date for sure. But if they don't, it might not. Big theme, and it's right there in the name, is verticality. In the trailer, you see your character, they're called wire bugs in the game, but basically they're grappling hooks that you can just it looks like you can just throw them into the air to jump up into the air higher. And there's like, short, small instances of wall running. So you can grapple into the air, swing yourself to a wall, and then climb up the rest of the way. Big, open, single, unbroken maps, just like Monster Hunter World. Not clear if there's going to be like multiple locations like in Monster Hunter World, but...
Can you explain that to me as somebody who only played a little bit of Monster Hunter World, but my experience with it was, okay, I'm in the hub world, I go get a mission, I take a contract, it drops me into this little mini map where I'm like seemingly in the size, like, the map didn't feel much bigger than maybe like 2 football fields. I go kill the monster. And then I go back to the hub world and take another contract. So that was like my experience. There was no exploration, which is what I expected.
Yeah, so it's definitely, that's strange. I guess it's not strange if you've never played Monster Hunter World or Monster Hunter before. So the maps are never been huge, even when you take all the parts combined. The hunting grounds, we'll call them. I don't know if they have a better name for the game for them in game, but basically they were always divided between loading screens. And so you might have like 8 sections in any given like area where you hunt, but it'd be really annoying to have to like go to a different one to find the monster, and you're skipping, you're waiting through loading scenes every time, or the monster leaves one area and goes to another. And now you have to go through more loading screens just to hunt down the monster. Now it's just continuous. It's still it's a very small sandbox, all things considered, especially compared to just modern games in general. When we say open world with Monster Hunter, no one means anything like open world in most other games. It's just sandbox, I guess, is probably the better way to describe it.
That was always my confusion with it, because what I had envisioned, having heard the description of it when I bought Monster Hunter World, was essentially this open world, like almost, I don't want to say Breath of the Wild, but let's say Horizon Zero Dawn sized map where you'll go to a town and they're like, hey, this monster's been eating my turnips. And then you're like, oh, I'll go get them. And then you got to go search them out, kind of like in The Witcher Wild Hunt, where you've got to find the clues and find the landmarks. And, oh, it's by the mountain thing. I'm by the mountain thing. And then I find the footprints and I track them down. That is just nothing like what I experienced.
It's because that's nothing like what the game is. No, it's all about those, not repetitive, but it's it's a much smaller loop of go to this place, which might be altered slightly in the sense that you might start in a different location or something might be different just because there's a different kind of monster there or whatever. But you find it and you go hunt it, and that's it. Done. Big change is that, so you remember with your brief stint, there are these little cat people called palicos. They're your little companions. Do you remember those?
Unfortunately.
So they're a staple for Monster Hunter. They're your little support buddies, especially in single player, or like when you only have two people in multiplayer. They're always there and they heal you, and they do small amounts of damage or distract the monster. So it's not always like totally on top of you. They added a new one for the first time, at least that I'm aware of, called, Malamutes. They are like these kind of foxy wolfhound things, and you can ride them like mounts, and you can run, and you won't use your stamina, which is a huge thing in Monster Hunter World, because it's pretty big place to have to run back and forth when you have something like a stamina meter. And so it looks like they can run up walls, and so that's really cool. Combat is way more they took what they've been doing with Monster Hunter Generations and Monster Hunter World. There's a lot more flippity flopping, fast stuff. Your big great swords and hammers are still slow, but even those have a bit more mobility to them. So a lot of things, it's something that turns a lot of people off. So this might bring them in.
It turned me off. And I'll say this, like, just looking at because I'm watching the trailer right now, the animations look a little more fluid. I remember the opening sequence of Monster Hunter World where you're like, you get on a ship and then somehow you get shipwrecked and then all of a sudden you're climbing. Mm-hmm. I remember the climbing looking absolutely ridiculous. Like the funniest thing I've ever seen, the most unnatural, it looked like a rag doll climbing up in a slinky fashion. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And I burst out laughing when I saw it. But looking at this, it seems like they did do a lot in the way of adding verticality naturally.
Yeah. I mean, and what you just described is both definitely one part just the way they designed it, and one part Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is a goofy game. It's got a goofy premise and its characters are goofy. Speaking of goofy, so a big thing that people didn't like about Monster Hunter World was they toned back the weapon and armor design. They're cool, but they were a lot more muted both in color and like variety. Like you would pretty much just you would have like several different kinds of hammers, and they're all pretty much the same except maybe something slightly different. Whereas in previous titles, you'd have one that's just super spiky with neon green ooze coming out of it, and another would be just like looks like it was made of magma with like the heat making cracks in the hammerhead or something like that. According to I'd have to go watch it again because I wasn't paying attention, but there was already evidence that they were going back to that more stylish kind of design, which is cool because the monsters looked stylish and you're using their parts, and it should look like you're wearing or using the monster when you make that armor or use those weapons. Let's see, one more thing I wanted to say. What was it? Ooh. Oh, it looks great. It looks visually really good for a Switch game. They translated this, it's a big ask to do something like Monster Hunter World on a Switch, and it looks like they're going to do their best to, it still looks inferior, graphically, but at the same time, I was like, I am totally okay with the way this looks, especially if it runs in 1080 60 frames per second. I'll take 30, but if it runs in 60, all the better.
I'm on board.
Yeah, I want to see a HUD. Want to see a HUD? They didn't show one.
You're all about the HUDs, and you want to see the HUD in the game trailer, but you're all about it.
I do. I want to because I'm not playing the trailer. I'm going to play the game. I want to see what the HUD looks like because the HUD taste says a lot about a game, especially if you know the series well. Like it can tell you a lot of stuff.
It does, but at the same time, I want some things to be left to the imagination.
Sure.
You know, I don't want to see too much skin. I want to see the. I want to see.
Keep your bra on, Monster
I want
Hunter.
to see the bones. I want to see the mechanics. What does it look like visually?
Yeah, I can't wait. That's going to be a fun purchase that hopefully I don't fall off of like I did with World because it'll be on the Switch. There's no way this game doesn't sell gangbusters either. Like I guarantee it breaks to the top 10 lifetime on the Switch, which is a big, which is
right, exactly, which is crazy,
right? Because there's already like 5 games that it's not going to beat. Like it's not going to beat Animal Crossing, Zelda, Mario. Well, it might be Zelda, Mario, Mario Kart, etc.
So is that all you have to say about Monster Hunter? Because I have another question for you.
Yeah, I think that's it. Like there was only so much they went over. Like I could talk about Monster Hunter forever, really, but.
Well, my question for you is, have you purchased Ori and the Will of the Wisps on the Nintendo Switch yet?
I have not.
I don't know why that surprises me, but I know you also bought another game that we'll talk about in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is cool as somebody who didn't play either one to know that both the first and second game are on the Switch available. It makes me more inclined to buy the first one on the Switch because I just feel like that game is a Switch game for me.
I keep recommending it. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah,
both the first one and the second one.
I'm going to have some time here where I'm going to be away from the house and I'll only have my Switch to be my only gaming machine. So it may be something I look into.
Yep. So yeah, as Jason said, the Ori 2 was announced today for Switch and it was out. It's available right now on Switch. Additionally, there's a really cool collector's edition that they showed off, physical that is, for both games, and it comes with both games, obviously, and a bunch of fun little art stuff. So if you love that kind of thing, you can go check that out if you've never played them or you really, really love the game and you want to play them.
Do you like any of that stuff? I don't like any of that
Conceptually,
stuff.
in a world where I have even more money to waste because I waste so much as it is, and more importantly, a place to put them because they announced like amiibos for Monster Hunter and they showed one of them off. I was like, dude, I want that amiibo. Like I love the idea of an amiibo, but I don't have anywhere to put amiibos.
I don't even like the idea of it if I had somewhere to put it. I don't like just junk. I feel like it's if I'm offending somebody, sorry. I feel like it's junk.
It is junk. It's just plastic because you can't
junk.
I mean, at least with amiibos, it's slightly different.
I feel like that about everything. I hate. Lauren hated my apartment in college because I literally just it was just a bed and empty everything. Just like this is like a jail cell. People say the same thing about my cube at work. They're like, "You are a serial killer." It doesn't look like you even have ever worked in this cubicle. But I just don't like clutter. It drives me nuts. I just don't
hate
like
our
it.
House.
I don't know. I liked your house the last time I was there, but it's been a couple years.
So much more cluttered. I don't even know how we used to live like we did, like when you last came, which was almost 10 years ago.
It was before Juliet was born, which is insane.
It was only it was less than a year after we got married. We had just gotten Charlie, and we got him in May of 2013. No, sorry, 14, because we got married in 2013. So yeah,
it's insane.
Wait, that's not right.
But right now, my house is mainly compiled of plastic toddler toys. So, I'm not one to talk. I have plenty of plastic junk in my house. It's just not mine.
Right. No, I mean, none of it's mine either. I will say that. None of this stuff is mine. And so much as that, technically I own everything in my house because I'm an adult.
Do you, though? Or do you, though?
Yeah, no, I do. Because who's going to clean it up? I am. And if
I'm
cleaning it up, it's
I
mine.
just gotta say, I'm jealous of Sean. He's like, I'm moving in today, and the movers brought 6 boxes.
No, don't you?
You know what, Sean?
You saw the clarification.
I just making fun of it. They brought 6 crates of boxes, but originally when he texted, he was like, they brought 5 out of my 6 boxes. I'm like, you have 6 boxes. I wish I had 6 boxes, to be honest with you. I wish. I used to. We're going off on a total tangent here, but
let's go, baby.
in Auburn when I was moving, from apartment to apartment, because when you're in college, you move a lot. The first time I ever went to school, I was moving in with one of my friends into a condo that his parents owned, and I totally thought I was going to live there for, 4 years. So I brought 2 carloads of things. I brought my whole car plus a whole minivan packed to the just gills with stuff that I thought I needed to go to school. Well, then my parents didn't help me move ever again. I know that they're going to refute this. I know that if my mom ever listens to this, she's going to refute it, but nobody ever helped me move. I got moved to Auburn, never got help moving again. I made like 6 trips home from Auburn in my 2-door Honda Civic, and I vowed never again. And from that point in 2008 until I got married in 2012, I could fit everything that I owned into a 2-door coupe Honda Civic, minus my bed.
That's impressive.
So that beats Sean's 6 boxes, I feel like. I mean, it really does.
Suck it, Sean.
Yeah, suck it. Suck it, Sean. You think you're cool with your 6 boxes? I had everything in one little car.
Next thing you know, it's going to be X boxes.
And sorry, I just got to say one thing. My dad has helped my sister move more in the past 2 years than I think he's ever helped me move in my entire life.
Don't even get me started on how my parents have helped my little sisters more than me. I love them to death, both my parents and my sisters, I mean. But it being the oldest son in a family of babies,
yes,
it's like we could make a podcast about all the double standard, like, mistreatments.
Inequity.
Exactly.
I love it.
It's so stupid.
But the funny thing is if I ever have a girl, because obviously Luke will be the older brother. If I ever have a girl, then it'll probably be the same. I mean, I'm not one to talk.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Luke, you're a strong, strapping lad. You can surely move yourself out of your dorm room.
But there's some things like, again, I don't want to get a tangent, but they're moving, okay, but there's other things I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Why can't I have this thing too? Or rather retroactively, because like at the time, I was the first to do a thing, and the parents did whatever they did. And then it's probably just them learning from their, not mistakes, but like, I probably should have done this differently or done more for them. And so the next 2 come along, and it's like, here's the world. And I'm like, thanks. But they love me totally. Most, so.
It's the oldest kid woes, man. And it's not just even that, it's other weird stuff like I remember distinctly 1999, I was 10 years old. We went to Blockbuster and rented The Matrix with my dad. I rented The Matrix with my dad and my stepmom. We watched The Matrix.
Say it again. What did you do?
Like I remember I friggin' had nightmares of Neo with his mouth like melding together and like this little thing that he dropped in his belly button and like it wiggled down in, and we watched The Matrix. I was 10. I remember that. And flash forward 20 years. I'm now 30. And I remember my stepmom and my dad are like, we just don't know if we want Jude to play Fortnite. Are you
like
the
same
opposite. Parents?
That's like the opposite.
I watched The Green Mile at your house when I was like 8.
That is definitely them learning from their mistakes.
Yes. Anyway, I mean, I don't know. That is exactly what it is. It's just funny is all it is. It's just funny. It'll be interesting to hear Karch or Sean's take on it, since he's the middle child.
He's a middle child. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I know basically how that's going to go. It's a pretty classic middle child story, if I'm not mistaken.
And the funny thing is, he's probably got double standards on both sides. You know? Right.
But again, I know Sean's parents very well. I know his family. None of this is. Nobody's parents are mistreating anybody in any actual sense.
Oh, so
just a disclaimer.
Are great. It's just hilarious to see it.
So yeah, that was all started by Ori 2 on Switch. Play that game if you haven't played it and you like anything about what it is, which is,
let me ask you,
action combat platforming.
Do I need to play the first one, or would you recommend skipping to the second?
They're both. The first one is short. It's not long. I really would, like, you don't need to So first of all, no, you don't need to. If you have no time or patience to play the first one, play the second one. It is overall a better game in almost every aspect, if not every aspect. I would say it's a complete and utter upgrade, and it's a little longer than the first one. But the first one's so good too, and it sets the mood, and it does introduce you to that world and makes everything feel much better in the second one because the story's so... I guess the best way, it's a vague story. It's just like, ooh, nature and the meaning of life and friendship and love, but like not even that. Like it doesn't even get even that deep into it. So it's not like you need the first one, but like the first one's such a good game, and again, it just lays a nice foundation for you if you have the time and the money, which you probably do, because again, they're both pretty short comparatively, and they're both pretty cheap comparatively. I would play both.
Okay, that's fair.
But if you can't, or you don't want to, then you can play 2 only. And they're both on Game Pass if you don't want to pay for them.
But I want the Switch. I want on the Switch.
I understand. I have made that decision or had that problem many times. With another game...
Let's talk about the Sean Weber's Game of the Year 2020. Let's talk about that.
Oh, you're right. Before we get to my Game of the Year 2020, we'll talk about Sean's Game of the Year 2020. Sean came on a few weeks ago, 3 weeks in a row, and talked about one of the greatest games of all time, fitness boxing. And you thought, wow, fitness boxing doesn't get better than that. And then, boom, fitness boxing 2 coming at you, son.
I mean,
You're
come on.
welcome.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Rhythm and exercise?
Sorry, The Last of Us Part 2. Sorry, Ghost of Tsushima.
Sorry, Cyberpunk 2077.
Might as well cancel the release.
I would delay it to get out of the way of fitness boxing too.
Yeah, I honestly cannot believe that there is a sequel to this game. I cannot think of a more unnecessary sequel than Fitness Boxing 2. Like, what about this game could not just be DLC?
I want a YouTube video of Sean doing it, but in a sports bra, like this person on the thumbnail.
No, we already talked about this. And if you had listened to the episodes, which I know you did, so you just don't remember. You just don't remember. I said I wanted him to do it shirtless.
No, but I remember you saying that I want him to do it in a sports bra.
That's right. You like a little skin to be hidden.
Right. I liked a little left to the imagination. We just talked about this.
Yep. So the biggest announcement today, though, the actual biggest announcement was Hades is out today. Did we? And I never clarified. Did we know this was coming today?
I don't think we did. We knew it was coming to the Switch. I don't think we had an exact release date.
Yeah. And so, Shadow Drop, presumably everything else too, consoles, Xbox, PC. It's been on PC. I meant to say PS4, not PC, but it's been on PC, early access on the Epic Game Store. I'm sure I don't know if it's still exclusive there, if it's on Steam or not, but it's on just about everything that you can play it. And I got it, and I'll be talking about it in a bit. It is good. It is their best game, hands down by far. It is climbing the Game of the Year conversation in my brain, and and I've only put in like 3 hours, maybe a little bit more.
That's insane that what did you do today?
Shh. Nothing. I worked. I totally worked.
Oh my god!
Well, I mean, I played it on my lunch, and I played about 45 minutes.
You don't have to explain it. It's just this is a Switch game for sure. Like, I watched this and I was like, oh, cool. It's already on PC, but this is a Switch game.
Like, there's nothing. I'm losing nothing by playing it on the Switch. I've done it all handheld so far. I might give it the old TV try this weekend. The kiddos should be gone, so I might have a little time to do some TV gaming.
Shoutcast. We could have done a Shoutcast.
No, she will be gone.
Yeah, no, we could have done a Shoutcast.
Well, my weekend's spoken for. Did you not hear me? I'm playing Hades.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that was a big announcement. It was very brief. Like, Supergiant's name comes up, Hades out today, and then they just moved on to the next thing. It was probably the least fanfare I've ever seen for a Shadow Drop. It was really funny. And like, I was a bit confused. I was like, wait. I mean, I was obviously excited, but again, I'm rolling in my brain like, wait, did I know this? It doesn't matter. I want it now. And then it still wasn't available for like another hour or so. So I was like refreshing the eShop page. But yeah, I got it. Check it out as soon as you can, Jason. Check it out as soon as anybody else can. It is on sale. It's going to be $25 normally. It's on sale for $20 now.
Oh, nice.
Again, even a steal at full price. Like, that's such a good deal. Oh my gosh, this game is so fun. I was giggling. I'll talk about it in a bit.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but that was I think that was everything worth talking about. Disgaea 6 is coming. Something called Balin, wonderful. Rune Factory 5, which looked really good
Sniper
for a Rune
Elite.
Factory game. Sniper Elite.
I didn't see anything about it, but I saw the Sniper Elite thing.
Tactical shooter. Oh, this looked kind of cool. Empire of Sin. You play some, moxie songstress from gangster era Chicago 1920s, but it's like a tactical game, like not grid based, but you do the turn based thing and you hide behind stuff and give you're a gangster and you're running with Capone or running against Capone and other people, and it was really interesting the way they presented it. Like, it's definitely something I'll probably never play, but it'll go on my wish list for sure.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's interesting. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. And that was it. Switch.
Right.
So they started doing these partner showcases, specifically these, like, calling them that, where they don't do anything Nintendo specifically. They let the partners speak freely without, mixing the two. And they sucked. The first two, they were terrible. This one was good. I'm not talking about indies. The indie showcases are usually very good. Sometimes there's crossover, but the ones so far that have been labeled like partner showcase mini direct, that mouthful of a phrase, have been bad. And this was the first good one. Not just because, Hades dropped. That was awesome. But it was just and of course Monster Hunter. That was a big deal. But it was just a better presentation. Like they actually had things that people might want to play, whereas all the other ones just seemed like no one's going to want to play this. Why in the world are you showing anybody this?
And you have to give them the benefit of the doubt for like the COVID factor of maybe that messed with some of their plans.
Then just don't do it. Then wait until you have something like...
I know, I see what you're saying, and I think hindsight's 2020, but the thing is you have to... We have to give them the benefit of the doubt and see what it's like moving forward.
Yeah. All right, that was the showcase. And then last little wrap-up news, the Nintendo 3DS. And that is every version of it, including the 2DS. So the whole line, which I think is 6 different SKUs. The production is finally ending. It is officially ending. So just a goodbye to a very good console.
Farewell.
It did me well in a time where that was like the most expensive thing I owned.
Yeah, totally.
For a long time. And I played, like, it wasn't my favorite console and it didn't have most of my favorite games, but I got a lot of use out of it because it was backwards compatible with my DS games. And there were some very good games on it. So goodbye, good buddy.
So long, man. I this was the first piece of hardware I bought after I got married. I did not own a gaming console at all. So it was nice to have this for a while to play a ton of games on, and I did really enjoy myself.
It was the first one after I got married too.
Nice. Hey, I do have one other piece of news that I did not list on the doc here.
Oh, go ahead.
NVIDIA has released its 3000 series video cards. So that's the 3070, the 3080, and the 3090. Interesting that they don't have a 3060. So there was a 2060, there was a 1060. There is no 3060.
Weird.
And
isn't there a 3050?
No, there's not a 3050 either.
Oh, okay.
And there was a you're right, there was a 1050. So they've eliminated those kind of levels. Interesting, they added the 3090. I think that was a very clever marketing thing that they did because they used to not have a 3090, but they had a 3080 Ti. So they've kind of replaced that 3080 Ti with a 3090.
You mean 20? Is that weird?
What?
You mean they had a 2080 Ti?
Yes, I'm sorry. They had a 2080 Ti. They had a 1080 Ti. So it was always the case where they had, like, say, the 1060, the 1070, the 1080. Those were like the base models. And then a little bit after release, they would have this like kind of souped up version that they had called, and then they'd call it like the 1080 Ti. Now they're kind of breaking that trend and saying we've got the 3070, the 3080, and then the 3090. So I think it's kind of a more straightforward naming convention, if I'm being honest. And The specs look insane. I mean, the meme is that Xbox Series X and PS5 like presented themselves as if they had surpassed PC gaming, and then Nvidia came out and was like, nope, here you go. Those are now available to an extent. They did open up pre-orders today, and as I understand it, virtually nobody was able to actually get this piece of hardware. And so there were some people on there that said they worked at Micro Center and their entire store only got an allotment of literally 2 graphics cards. Some people are saying that it was a quote unquote paper launch, kind of not vaporware, but like a launch where they knew people weren't going to be able to get it, but they wanted to get it out into the world to like influencers and whatnot. And so anyway, that just a piece of interesting news that those are available. They do rival the consoles that we're talking about for next gen. And you probably will be able to find them within the next 6 months, I'd say. But if you weren't one of the lucky ones that were able to pre-order it today, one of the lucky 4 people that could get one, don't fret. I'm sure they'll be making more. They're probably a little bit constrained, just as the console manufacturers are, because they're all competing for Foxconn's manufacturing and supply chain. But yeah, I'm really struggling with, am I going to update my graphics card first, or am I going to trade in the PS4 Pro and get a PS5? That's really my major thing of like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, I had a friend at work who we were just basically going back and forth with all the memes they were making about how they were gone in an instant, because he was one, he's ready. He's going to buy his 3080 as soon as he can. He's ready to upgrade, so... Totally. And I think now for me, like I have a 1060, I think, and that was kind of like, I had built a PC way back in like 2008, 2009. Mm-hmm. I did not have like a modern GTX card. Then I rebuilt in 2017 and then got a 1060. I think graphics cards are a little different than console generations or even other tech like phones. Like phones, you can kind of expect a new upgrade every year, and other things you can expect a new upgrade every year. Graphics cards are not really like that, and so I do think that the first generation, I get a little bit concerned about first generation tech, and the 2000 series for GTX was the first gen ray tracing, and I purposely skipped it. But I do think that was a good generation to skip, and this is a good generation to upgrade. That's my own. What are you rocking right now? I forget.
I have a 1060. It's a 6 gigabit card. So they had a 1060 3 gigabyte card of video memory and a 6 gigabyte card. So I got that 6 gigabyte card. Cool. Like I said, that's not going to be an option this time. There are kind of fewer SKUs. So probably going to go with a midpoint and get the 3080, even though it is pretty expensive. I think it's about $500 if I'm not mistaken. So basically a new console, but it is what it is. This is my primary gaming machine.
Yeah, it's not mine. I'll just have to wait to get mine, and I'm nowhere near needing it yet. I'll probably just ride this machine out until all its components are useless, and then upgrade the graphics card then, like I usually do.
What about the other ones? Like, are you going to upgrade the CPU and the motherboard and all that?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'll do it all at once like I did this last time. Like, it'll be longer until I get to any of it.
Yeah, I did that the first time, but I've been doing it more modular this time, and it's kind of spread the cost out a bit. Like, I upgraded the SSD to an NVMe just recently, and like...
That brings me no joy, though. Like,
it's not a fun purchase, but then once you get to doing stuff, and you're like, "Ooh, this is cool. This is faster." Like, I know what you're saying. It's not sexy, but...
Yeah, I like sexy. I like games. Like, because every time it's like I could buy a new power source, except that's about the price of another game, and then I won't buy it, and I'll buy that other game.
I'm with you. Like, I get it, but
all right. Thanks for tacking that on. Anything else before we move on to what we wish we were playing?
No, let's do it.
All right. What do you wish you were playing, Jason?
For me, Hades. You told me I'm going to love that game.
You are.
I watched it. I loved the trailer. I couldn't wait for it to come to Switch. We didn't have a release date and it got shadow dropped today. You bought it, which means I have access to it. Like, I want to play it. I'm going to go download it right after we're done recording.
And it's a quick download. It took me like less than an hour. It's a real small game, like file size wise. So
I don't know much about it, but I know that it's the type of game that I like, and I'm looking forward to it.
It's really good. All right. I wish I was playing Super Mario 3D All-Stars. So when are you going to buy it?
I'm going to buy it tonight, so don't you worry your pretty little head. You can get it tomorrow. Woo. It's not even out right this second. It's out in about an hour, so don't.
I mean, you could have had it pre-downloaded.
Could you do that now?
Yeah.
Oh, darn.
You can do that with you can definitely do it with every Nintendo published game, and then pretty much any other like somewhat reputable like publisher will let you do like a early download.
Like, well, I'll go get it because I'll go get it because Tyler wants it too, and you want it too, and I'm not quite ready to play it, but I just bought Luke a Switch, and I know he will love like all those games too, so I'll go grab it after the podcast here.
I'm excited to play it. Like, I mean, the reviews came out and they're all 9s and 8s. No, very few 10s though, because it's like it feels hard to give a 10 to what is essentially a lazy port. And we talked about that a lot last week or the week before. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. But like I haven't played. I played a bunch of Super Mario 64, but to be fair, I've never gotten very far in it because I never owned it. I was always renting it or playing it at a friend's house. And it's been ages. You beat it, yeah. Did you ever get 120 stars?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I beat 120 stars. I beat the third Bowser. Like, dude, I did it all.
And like, it's not as good as it could be, but it's still going to be better than I've ever experienced it. You know, the 720p 30 FPS is going to be great. I can't remember the last time I played Super Mario Sunshine. I remember enjoying it.
I've never played it, so I'm looking forward to that. I did beat Galaxy, so I don't even know if I'll play that, but
yeah, I also beat Galaxy, but there was so much left to do. Like the quote unquote end game where you just keep going, you know, you go back and get the rest of the stars and do the harder trials and stuff. I never did any of that.
I never do any of that in any game, so I know I'm not.
I love doing it in Mario because it feels achievable and it's always fun. Like it doesn't. Like a lot of games like that, like for instance, I beat Ghost of Tsushima. I was like, well, you know, let me check out the trophy list. Let me go start doing bandit camps. And I got through 3 and I'm like, this is the worst. Why would anybody do this after they just finished this beautiful game and ruin it for themselves by turning it into this laundry list of a chore? But Mario's not like that.
That's what I feel. No, that's how I feel about that. But what I will say is what I do like in terms of Mario Endgame is those like, I'll call them quote unquote special levels. Because, you know, like Super Mario World, you could go to the Star World and then you could go to the middle of Star World and get the special levels. And they kind of continue that idea of these super challenging levels. I mean, you see it with the Bowser DLC that they promised for the 3D All-Stars pack. And it's coming out in like March or whatever.
Yeah, okay. Never mind.
But you also see it in like a game like, what was the one on the Wii? It was Super Mario 3D World. That one had
that was the Wii U.
The Wii U, that's the one I'm speaking of. And it had this kind of end game thing where they like you beat the campaign, you roll the credits, you save Rosalina or whatever it is, and then there's these like kind of special levels you could tack on to the end.
You're getting your Marios all mixed up, man.
No, I'm not.
You just said Rosalina. She's not in 3D World.
Yes, she is.
She is?
Super Mario 3D World, Rosalina. Yes, she is. Obviously, you didn't play it, but, you know, I did.
Unlockable character. All right.
But she's the one you unlock when you get those special levels.
I see. Okay.
That I'm talking about. And they're super challenging. And I can't wait to play
that too.
But it's cool to have them there. It's really cool to have them there. They did the same thing, if I'm not mistaken, in the 3DS Super Mario 3D Land, where you beat the game, you roll credits, but then there's these like super challenging levels at the end. That I appreciate. What I don't appreciate is I don't like the end game of like time trials, blah blah blah. I don't like that. I don't think that's just not for me.
Agree to disagree.
Okay, that's fine.
Because you're wrong.
Well, you know, I can be wrong, but you're wrong about a lot of stuff, so.
I am? but then I'm excited to play it. I still think it's a good deal, and it's going to be an even better deal with you buying it. So I'll probably dip my toe into that too this weekend. But
do it.
But I'm going to be Hades focused.
I know, that's funny. I'll probably buy Mario and be... This is what's going to happen. I'll buy Mario and I'm going to play Hades, and you'll play... you buy Hades and you'll play Mario.
Exactly.
Grass is always greener.
Butter and your chocolate.
Exactly. So that's what we've been playing, or that's what we want to play, but what have you actually been playing?
Believe it or not, and this, like, my week's been so crazy. We got a new puppy, and these 3 days have felt like an eternity in a good way, but they've definitely been long. But a little, like, over the weekend, late last week, I was playing some Skyrim, searching for my best friend.
On the Switch?
On the Switch.
Heck yeah, baby. What'd you think?
And it's fine. I haven't really gotten much further than I've ever gotten. I always get to this same part and I usually dip out, and that might be the case here too, because all this other stuff just showed up at my door. Like, it won't, for the first time, it won't be because I think I'm bored of Skyrim. It'll just because so many amazing things have appeared instead. Yeah. So, but yeah, I rolled a single female orc. She's a widow.
What do you mean when you say you rolled? What did you do to roll that?
That's it's classic terminology, because when you play D&D, what do? You roll dice for a character. So that's what you say. It's just carried over to video games.
But you picked a single female orc.
Right. When I say rolled, it just means I made the character.
I didn't know if you used some sort of random character generator online. Okay.
No, I picked single female orc. She's a widow. She hates red guards since they're the reason her husband's dead.
Sure, and I'm a red guard, but go keep going.
Exactly. And she's a helper of women and children, unless they're red guards.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, I'm having fun. Like, I've never hated the game. I just never, and even still, it's not really clicking. Like, I get it, but at the same time, like, if I want to play this kind of game, I'll probably just go back to Divinity Original Sin 2.
Sure. I found myself, and I love this game. Like, this game is my jam, but I'm finding myself, like, for the first time ever playing it, I'm seeing the flaws. And, you know, obviously this game came out, like you say, 10 years ago. And there are some issues with it. But I find myself being like, I kind of wish I was playing the Outer Worlds right now, because if I were, I could choose to kill the king or not the king, but the, who's the main dude at Whiterun?
Jarl.
Yeah, I could kill the Jarl. I could just kill him. I don't have to listen to what he says. I don't have to thank him for allowing me to buy property in Whiterun. I could just kill him. I tried to kill him just to see if I could do it. I can't, because then all these people come to his aid. I don't know what would happen if I actually killed him. I really don't. I don't think you're strong enough to do it at the beginning of the game. I think
you can't. Like, I've played before and dropped it down. He does not die. He cannot be killed.
So that's the thing. It's like, and that's fine. Because they were limited in what they could do in terms of design, you know, back then. But it does leave me kind of wishing that I had more, because I always felt so free playing this game. That's what I loved about it. And there's still plenty of things to love about this game, and I've talked about them ad nauseum on the show, so I won't go into them, but just like the way they weave exploration into the story, it's incredible to me, and I don't know how they did it. But then that you are limited in some aspects in terms of your freedom of choice, and obviously the combat leaves a lot to be desired. And I'm finally starting to. I always knew it was a thing. I always knew the combat was not great, but finally, this is the first time I've ever played a melee character, and I'm just like, it's terrible, darn near impossible to even hit somebody. You do your little charge up attack, they'll move by you, and you're just like, you totally whiff. And I'm just like, man,
it's just a really spastic experience. Like, there's I can't believe, like, I don't know. I play this game, and I know it came out 10 years ago, but 10 years ago, like, there were so much better, like, combat in games was so much, like, why is it so bad? It's just, I don't know. It is bad to me, like melee combat specifically, because that's all I know. And I picked a two-hander. Like, I'm playing a two-hander when and the attacks are wide and sweeping, and I just like I hate it. I hate first-person melee combat. It's
Don't
so
do first-person.
bad.
Click in the right stick and do third-person.
I do third-person, but the game is I'm just playing a first-person, like, removed out. Like, it's still like nothing's different really, except my viewpoint.
Right,
and it's a little bit better. It does help a little bit, and
it helps a little bit.
And then I explore in first-person because I find that's a little bit nicer. But
that's true too.
Like, it's just it's weak, and I just struggle to wonder. Like, I don't know. I guess it's because it was the only one doing it. But I've been spoiled by Breath of the Wild and now Divinity, and like they both do this thing slightly differently, and in my opinion, better. And then like you said, Outer Worlds for a more Fallout-esque, which is very similar to Skyrim as well. Though, like they're diverged paths of a similar idea of open world, do whatever you want, explore. But one is something and one is the other.
And you know what's funny? Because people complained about the combat in Outer Worlds, and I'm just like, and these are the same people who revere Skyrim. And like I said, don't get me wrong, I love Skyrim. I respect Skyrim. I'll probably continue to play, and who knows how many more times I will start a new file. But
yeah, on that thought, Jason, how many times have you beat Skyrim?
Never. Never.
Gamer.
I am a fake gamer, okay? I rarely beat games. It's an accomplishment when I beat a game. It is not only is it an accomplishment, it's like that game should feel really good about the fact that I actually took the time to beat it. Like they should be honored,
Perhaps the only game you beat this year, what, Last of Us 2?
I think so. Well, technically, I beat The Outer Worlds earlier this year, but yeah, The Last of Us Part 2 is the only other game. It's the only 2020 release that I've beaten.
Yeah. That spoiler cast is coming never.
Yeah, probably not at this point.
Yeah.
Well, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about the episode? Do you think we need to talk about the topic of the show, or do you think we can save?
Well, I'm going to talk about Hades here first.
Oh yeah, totally. What have you been playing, Karch? Sorry,
Hades.
Tell me about it.
So good, so good,
good. For people who've never even seen that trailer, explain to me the gameplay. What type of game is it?
Oh, it's a roguelike. So you're repeating the same thing. You're going through. You start at level 1. You go as far as you can until you die. Once you die, you go back to level 1, and you do it all again, with the end goal being whatever the end is. You have to do it in quote unquote one run. Now there might be a way to skip certain parts of it. I haven't, you might unlock like a thing that says you don't have to fight these bosses anymore. You can skip straight to this portion. I don't know if that's a thing because there's a lot of stuff.
In a lot of roguelikes, at least modern roguelikes, there is some facet of your quote-unquote character that you do upgrade as you go through. And that could be skills or availability of weapons or whatever it is that you have access to that you didn't in your first run. So what is it in Hades? What's like the loop?
The loop is there is a minor amount of like permanent progression. You can I've only scratched the surface though. So you start off, you have 4 things that you can pump your resources into, but there's so many resources, but in such a way that it doesn't feel overwhelming, which I love because I do love that. I love like complicated mechanics, but I also hate complicated mechanics. But basically you have a currency that you pump into these resources. Then you have a different currency that lets you unlock more things to pump them into. So I don't even know how many there are. I started with 4. I have 6 different ones now. One of them was very simple. It was just like, so you can dash, and then it was like dash twice, and then that's it. You can't dash any more than twice. You've like maxed that one out pretty early on. The rest of them are things like attack from behind and do 5%, 10%, 15, etc. more damage. Heal every time you go up a new level, and then as you pump more points into that, you'll heal more. Healing is very limited, at least so far. Like you have to like when you get hit, the chances of you finding some way to heal yourself are limited and unlikely. You might get one chance to buy something, in a run and like a potion or some food or whatever. And that's it. So like I've died a handful of times already, obviously, because that's the point of these games. And death is so much fun. Dying is a reward because you go back to the the lobby essentially of Hades' little kingdom. So you play Hades' son, Zagreus or something like that. I don't know if he's a real thing, because I don't ever remember Hades having any children in Greek mythology. But you're Hades' son. Hades is this like, stressed, mean, overbearing father, and he sits at this desk doing paperwork with scrolls and like, a feathered pen, an ink pot and stuff. And there's all these classic Greek mythology characters there. And as you go through the runs, you run into these little messages from the Olympian gods, so Zeus and Poseidon and Aphrodite, etc. And they're like, "Hey, buddy, we're on your side. We hate Hades. He's a douche. We're gonna get you out of here. Keep going, buddy." And so so a lot of roguelikes have.
I love that. Sorry, I love the narrative of it, because I don't know what you were about to say, but yeah, a lot of roguelikes have like a narrative around why you restart the run. One that came to mind is Rogue Legacies was really funny, where you kind of like you were the offspring of, or like in the same family tree of the person that just died. Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of funny to see this one. But sorry, continue.
So I explained there's permanent upgrades that carry over. They're minimal though. But every run has the opportunity to have, you get these random upgrades to your weapons or your abilities that you're using. And again, that's the Zeus and the Poseidon stuff. And that's different every level you go into. You have a chance to run into somebody different. And so those are temporary though. Those go away every time you die, and you'll run into a new set, and it's always a fun, unique experience. This is just the concept of a roguelike. This isn't particularly new, but the way they implement it it's fascinating. And each time you unlock this, you have a very miniature conversation with them, and they comment on something you just recently did, or a weapon that you got, a weapon you just acquired and brought with you this time. And it's the same thing when you go back to the lobby after you die. There's a handful of characters who are always there. Achilles of, famous Troy fame is there. He's like your buddy. Hades hired him to train you in like martial combat. And he's on your side. Everybody's on your side except for like just a handful of people, and then all the like the undead monsters that Hades has in his employ. Because while he doesn't want you to escape, he's literally doing nothing himself to stop it. And like every so often you'll get so far, and then Hades will be like, "What are you doing? Stop it."
So what's the objective? Like, are you trying to escape Hades, or like what?
You're out. You don't know why. You don't know why, aside from the fact that I guess you just don't like your dad. You just want out of the underworld. You don't want to live this life. And so that brings me to like the way this narrative is structured, and that it's both brutal because there's blood and monsters and skeletons and like undead spirits and demons and stuff, but it's also like Cerberus is a fluffy puppy. I mean, he's huge and he's like, somewhat demonic, but he's also like your best friend. He loves you. Like one of the little story bits it reveals is he destroyed this lounge. Like there's like a lounge with a cafe and stuff in it, and he destroyed it because you left and he was upset. And after like 10 different runs, the cafe is restored and you can go in there, and now there's new people there. And it's like, it's phenomenal how much attention to detail there is. And it's always just this tiny bite, because you want to go back to the combat. You're glad you're back to see the new conversations, but you don't want to get bogged down with that. And so you go right back to the combat. And there's this air of mystery, because again, you don't know exactly why you're doing it. And there's a lot of comedy, and the combat is just so stellar. It's very simple. You start off with a sword, and then it makes you unlock the bow next, and you can only take one weapon with you each time. And then as you get more currency, you unlock different kinds of weapons. I just, for instance, unlocked these gloves, which I love. They're very fast, very in your face. There's an uppercut move, and the Greek god bonuses you get depend on the weapon that you bring. And so, like, again, adding to just that variety that you have every time, it's so much fun, so much fun. And I cleared my first boss. So you go up, I don't know, maybe like anywhere between like 5 and 8 encounters. An encounter being like a very small area with a bunch of enemies that'll spawn. And then once you kill the last one, you can go to the next level. And at the end of that, there's a boss. and you get a very special resource, and then you move on to the next like setting. So at first it's Tartarus, and it's just pretty, regular greenish stone masonry kind of thing. It's nothing special. And then you move to, I think it's called Asphodus or something like that, and it's all lava and molten ash and phosphorus and sulfur and stuff like that. And there's like, you get this little codex thing that you can like read up on people's bios. And there's another thing, like the more you talk to people, it unlocks that stuff. The more enemies you kill with weapons, the more it gives you the history on them. And it's just so much fun. It's so much fun. I can't believe I've only played like a few hours of it, and it's already given me so much, and I can see how much more there's left without actually knowing what it is.
That's really cool. And like that humor that you're describing kind of reminds me a little bit of the Messenger and like how self-aware it was. I don't know if that's the case because I haven't.
No, that's a very good comparison. And the way that in the Messenger you would always, it wasn't a roguelike, so you weren't repeating stuff. But you would go, you had that guy, the shopkeeper. The merchant, the shopkeeper, and it was very similar because he would go talk to him, and it would be that kind of same thing. And but on a much wider scale. I'm usually like the type of person that thinks humor in a game is cringy, but like no, not this one. That game did it really well. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm like, oh god, these people are trying way too hard, but it was so self-aware and so well written. So you'll love it, and it's fully voice acted. Fully voice acted.
Oh,
and the voices are great.
Better.
Yep, and like so, Supergiant is the developer of Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre fame. Those are the 3 games they've produced before this. And like every little thing that you love them for is here in full force. The music is amazing. The character designs are amazing. The gameplay is the best out of any of them it's ever been. It's the most like Bastion. Like Bastion is the closest example of any of them because Transistor is very turn-based. And then Pyre is just totally different thing all to its own. So if you have to compare it to something, it's Bastion. And Bastion was good but clunky.
Bastion wasn't really about the combat, though, more so like the environment and the narrative, right?
It wasn't about the combat only because the combat was limited, I would say. Like, again, it was clunky, and it was their first foray, and it was very good, and I had fun with the combat. There was additional stuff you could do outside of the story, like combat trials, time trials, and stuff, which I did a lot of and had fun with. But this one, just everything comes together so well. Nothing feels out of place or like it's over there for you to do. And I'm sure maybe like there's a mode or there will be some end game stuff like, okay, you beat the story and now there's a few things more for you. But like this game is a complete package. And it's really, really good.
I can't wait to check it out.
Yeah. Game of the year. It's a contender. Like, no joke, it's a contender. Like, I'm not going to get a chance to replay Final Fantasy VII. I really doubt it.
Why would you? Let's not talk about it. You're stressing me out. Keep going.
Because sometimes you just got to go through something else to really absorb the content. And I'm not going to love Cyberpunk like most people will. I'll play it and I'll probably enjoy the very brief stint I'll have in it, but that game's going to be too much for me, and I just don't want to sink that much time into it. And the only other thing left on the horizon for this year is Hyrule Warriors, probably, for me specifically. And I like Ghost a lot, and I liked Ori and the Will of the Wisps a lot, but I'm thinking Hades might actually take it once everything's said and done.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to say before I play Cyberpunk, but I know we've kind of had this discussion. I'm definitely leading The Last of Us Part 2, as controversial as that game was. But again, it's like the only one I've beaten this year, which just in and of itself tells you how much I liked it because I don't think
it's unfair to say it's the best game that you've played this year for more than like 2 hours, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I've played a lot of games for more than 2 hours, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Like that was okay, but then we got to take like multiplayers out of it because those are rare. Not that they can't be, but they're rarely contenders.
Yeah,
and yeah, but like you might like Ghost of Tsushima more than The Last of Us 2 if you got all the way through it, but you're never going to get all the way through it. So
yeah, I think you would. I think based on what I heard you say about the story, I don't think that would be the case for that because of my personal tastes. But yeah,
true.
So yeah, I don't personally think we necessarily need a topic of a show. That was meaty. That was like sitting on about 2 hours right there.
Just like you like.
It's just like I don't like those 90-minute episodes you and Sean do. I'm just kidding. I do like those, but today was a little longer.
Speaking of Sean, we ain't got no listener question either. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for leaving us out to dry, hanging us out to dry.
Maybe there's one packed away in one of his 6 boxes.
Yeah, maybe one of his little 6 boxes. There's a little piece of paper in one of those. He folded up his little listener question. He put it in the little box of his 6 boxes of things.
6.
And these aren't very big boxes we're talking about. They're like, if you're watching the video, they're like little
2 by
boxes.
2.
Yeah,
2 by
2
2
by
by
2
2
by 2. Yeah, the cubicle boxes. That's all he has. I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing, though. That could have been his 6 boxes, but his wife actually had a whole other truck that he didn't tell us
he
about.
buried the lead. I get it. That makes sense.
Yeah. Which it makes way more sense.
And his dogs probably had a few boxes, too.
Yeah, probably more than him.
Pampered pups.
Wait, does he have more than one dog?
He has 2 dogs. They got one fairly recently. Like, I mean, at this point, I think she's probably almost like a year or 2 old now.
What? I only heard about Oliver. Oliver's one of them, right?
Oliver was Caitlin's before they got married, and now, and then they got I can't remember their other dog's name, but they got her after they moved to Alaska.
Whoa!
Or just before.
He only ever talks about that one dog. Okay,
I'm sorry, I don't know. He's a liar, I guess.
Only ever seen one dog. You talking about the one dog under the table when we were playing D&D? I don't know. Sean, I blame this on you.
Yeah, solely. It's completely on him. It's not my fault.
Anyway, well, you know what? Everybody, thank you for listening today. That's all we have for you. It's a pretty big episode. We'll come back next week and maybe we'll have topics and listener questions, but we know you came for the news and to hear our thoughts about it. We know you did. So
we know.
You all have a fantastic week. We will try, but we are never free to play.
Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. What? Give me the beat, boys. Oh my God! Come here right now. Come here right now. Come here right now. You need to come here. Come on this side of the fence. This is gonna be great.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
All right, come here. Come here. All right, you're gonna speak. No. Rachel Palaski, what did you think the lyrics to that song were?
I'm not saying.
She thought it was Beach Boys. I love you. We're not live. We choose what goes in the video.
But we're using that. Give me the Beach Boys.
The divorce was worth it.
Oh my goodness. Give me I can't get over it. That's like one of the Oh, okay, I needed that. Oh gosh.
There's your energy right there. She couldn't say it.
I mean, laughing. I'll give her this. At least she's heard of the song because I feel like that's better than you in some respect. But man, give me the Beach Boys. What does that even mean?
I don't even know.
The Beach Boys and free my soul.